Do you want to start, Sumaiya, or do you want to give it a bit longer?
I think people are still joining, so we can wait for like a few minutes. You start at 4:35.
Yeah, that's fine.
Is that okay?
That's okay.
Thank you. I think we should start.
Okay.
So, do you want to
go?
Should I?
No. You can introduce me.
Thank you. So, hi everyone. A very warm welcome to our event today, which is called Sense and Sensitivity. It's going to be a short workshop on mental health sensitivity. where we'll try to cover topics as to how you can be sensitive to the mental health of those around you, and what you should say or not say or do or not do. And I feel like this is a need of the hour because we're trying to be more woke about mental health these days. And it's important that we do our parts to learn and educate ourselves as to what we can do to contribute to the betterment. So first of all, I'll just lay down some ground rules for the event. We would like if you could keep your videos on, because we would like to have an interactive session, and for that it would be good if we could see you. That would give a feel that someone's listening, and then we're not having a monologue here. In addition to that, also request you to keep your audios off unless you're speaking. And for the entirety of the event, you can always put anything on the chat box, any kind of question or a comment or an opinion. That's always welcome. So and if we're ever opening, the forum up to discussion, I think to have it more systematically is that you could put your name on the chat box, and then accordingly we can take 3 to 5 speakers, whatever time permits. So yes, and for today's event, we have a very special speaker with us. So I would like to introduce our speaker, Regan Rawlins. So I like to call him Ray. That's how he goes by. He's an ally with Spaces, MSc Psychology, PGCE CBT Practice, BSc Honors in Combined Social Sciences, and BSc in Politics. But I think more than the degrees, I think today's session will go further in telling you how skilled and what an expert he is in such areas. And I know Ray through Spaces International, which is an organization that we're both allies with. And when I came up with the idea for this event, the first person I thought of was Ray, because of our previous interactions and the kind of conversations we've had and how much his perspective has helped me personally. So I could find nobody better to actually conduct this workshop. So Ray, a warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for choosing to be a part of our event today. Over to you.
Thank you, Sumaiya. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to be invited to talk to you all. So I've got a background in psychology, so I am a mental health advocate and well-being coach. I incorporate a lot of philosophy and spirituality in my approach to dealing with mental health. Because in a sense, we're dealing with something that's beyond human understanding sometimes, and we've got to take our academic hats off when we're dealing with the life sciences. So today is going to be a workshop like no other. There's not going to be any fancy slide presentation or any, complicated graphs to study. It's going to be a person-to-person exchange. We're going to have a conversation. So I know you all medical students, take your stethoscope off and your white coat and put your academic hats off and come to this forum as a person, embrace your humanity and use your primary identity, which is that of, a son, a daughter, a brother, a sister, a friend. That's how we're going to approach this today. We're not going to be very academic about it. We can have another workshop if we want to get into the nitty-gritty of the academics and treatments and all of that. But today we're just going to speak about the practicalities of how to deal with people that are going through a mental health crisis, the things you can do and can't do and should say and shouldn't say. And, there's no wrong or right answers because we're dealing with life here. We're dealing with human beings. No amount of, science can give you a conclusive answer to how to deal with certain situations. It comes with practice and experiences. So I implore you to treat this as a personal experience of one human being dealing with another first and foremost. So I've been given a list of talking points, and it's a good thing because I've got a really big mouth and I have a habit of just going on and on and on. So if you see me looking down all the time, I've got the list of talking points that Sumaiya has provided me to stick to. But obviously we're dealing with time constraints here, but I'd like you all to be interactive. It's a conversation, it's not a lecture. There isn't going to be any handout, but if you want to, I will send a copy of the talking points to Sumaiya afterwards, and if you want to keep that and look at it or whatever you want to do with it, that's fine. But what you're going to take away from this is basically what's going to be discussed and how we exchange between us. So I'm going to start with the first question, basically, mental health sensitivity. What is mental health sensitivity to you? It's a very broad sort of definition, so people have different concepts of what it is, but it's broad but quite simple at the same time, but it will mean different things to different people depending on, your situation, your culture, your background. So does anyone want to go first and tell me what it means to them? Nobody? Okay, so basically mental health sensitivity is about awareness, and it's as simple as that. It's about being aware of mental health and how we interact with people, especially people that are inflicted by, mental health. So the next question on the talking point list was, why is it important for us to be mental health sensitive as a community? So my answer to that question is simple. In its simplest form, it can mean the difference between life and death. It's as simple as that, and it's as stark as that, because what you say and how you do can determine a person's actions, especially a person that's within crisis. So it's that simple. On the other end of the spectrum, I suppose it's important to consider that mental health is entwined in nearly every aspect of social life that we experience. Unfortunately, we live in a society where there's a lack of parity between physical health and mental health. But, there's tides that are changing in all our societies, and, especially with regard to our healthcare system here in the UK, there seems to be a lot of emphasis recently on pushing funding around mental health and improving people's understanding, because it exists, it's as simple as that. Statistics show that one in every two people will experience some kind of mental health crisis within their lifetime. Many of it will go undiagnosed. Some people wouldn't even be aware that they're experiencing a mental health condition. And that's down to our conditioning. We've lived in societies where your feelings don't take precedence over physical feelings when it comes to illness. If someone is physically hurt or breaks a bone or cuts, you see blood, you see, swelling, you see bruising, the immediate reaction is to do something about it. But when the pain it's there, we live in societies that encourage you to shut up, shut up and push up. It's cultivated this environment where it's seen as weakness, as less than, to be able to fully express your feelings. And that's led to the situation we are now. But like I said, the tide is changing. It's slow, the wheels are turning very slowly, but, they're heading in the right direction. So it's important to recognize that. And I mean, that's the importance of a meeting like this, is that, it's to improve our understanding and grow our awareness to make a difference in people's lives. Because, like I said, you were a human being before you were a student doctor, or, the problem with society as well, it's put these labels on us, especially us as educated people, doctor, psychologist. This elevates you to a certain level of superiority, and your ego gets inflated, and you don't realize that we can be inflicted by this, and when an educated person and a person who's got awareness of mental health falls prey of mental health, it's a lot worse. I know a lot of psychologists that struggle with their mental health. I know a psychologist who's got his PhD, and he sees a psychologist to deal with his mental health. So it can happen to any of us. So treat this as a person-to-person basis. So the first question, my notes have gone. I haven't got my laptop today, so I'm dealing with my phone, which has got some of my notes on. So it's a bit slow. And anyway, the second point about why we should be a sensitive community when it comes to mental health is because it's good for society as a whole. We have a moral responsibility to ensure people are well and healthy, as we do with physical illness. You see someone who's been injured on the side of the road, you don't just walk past, you stop, you help, you raise the alarm bells to get the help. So, and we need to treat mental health the same. People cower away and they avoid dealing with the problem. And it's basically based on lack of understanding, most importantly. So I want to ask any of you that would like to contribute to that, why do you think we should be a mental health sensitive community? Why is it important? Because there's loads of other reasons. I've just given you 2 primary examples, but there's so many different reasons. I'm just looking at the messages to see if there's any questions. It's interesting. Pranali said sometimes it is better to talk. It's not sometimes it's better to talk. Most of the time it's better to talk. Absolutely. And unfortunately, we've all been victims of, our social conditioning where you're discouraged from talking about these issues. So yeah, that talk is the way forward. I'm going to talk about talk a bit more later and about words and the importance of that a bit more later. But yeah, that's a very, very valid point that you make there. Let's see. To be able to love life and be productive, absolutely, it's essential. We take our vitamin C and we eat well and, we exercise and do all these things for the betterment of our physical health. And we kind of, we don't have the same sort of, we don't put the same onus on our mental health. So yeah, of course, it's extremely important. You never know what someone is dealing with in their personal life, hence it's extremely important to be sensitive towards their mental health. Absolutely, and you can relate to that as a human being yourself. We've all got brains, we've all got feelings. We know what we've got to deal with. We know the things we've been through. So you've got to be mindful and sense of the fact that, someone else could be going through the same thing or similar or different. Being mentally sensitive is an innate quality of humanity and we shouldn't stray away from it. Absolutely, that is perfect, spot on. It is totally innate. Feelings of emotional distress, hurts, pain is as natural as feelings of laughter, tears and joy. Those things come naturally. So when you're suppressing everything that's natural, you're going against the natural order of things. It's as bad as you having a cut, walking around the street and your blood is splattering all over and you're doing nothing about it. You wouldn't do that, would you? So you would address it. The natural inclination is when you're in pain physically, you got to go to get that paracetamol or that aspirin, or you call your doctor, you immediately address it. And that's why mental health is pretty much the same. It should be given that same sort of urgent response to dealing with it, because you're not doing anything wrong. You're not weak. It's not a character flaw. Let's get that clear. For centuries, societies and cultures have always built it as a character flaw. The bottom line is we're dealing with something beyond human understanding. We don't know why we have eyes. We know we just have eyes. The same with, everything else. We have an understanding of a lot of physical illnesses and their causes, but with mental health, we're dealing with a lot of subjectivity. So we don't know why mental health is caused. We know, for example, we have associations and we also have commonalities, but we don't exactly know why some people fall prey to it. We know economic circumstances, trauma, physical illness can contribute to its social isolation, inclusion, but those are contributing factors that haven't been verified, and we don't know why some people have that emotional resilience and others don't. So if you're dealing with something that's beyond human understanding, surely one would kind of question whether, is it just not innate, part of the broad spectrum of human emotions that sometimes we will go through these things. So just embrace it and deal with it. Another person, has just said, because it affects us in every way, in our everyday life, everyone's fighting their own battles. Absolutely. Communication is key. Speak those things which a person at one particular moment requires the most. Absolutely. At times it is good to hear, and sometimes it is good to speak. Very good. We're going to talk about that a bit later, but that's when it gets really interesting. And then Steffi Rachel here says, I don't think there is a right emotion a person feels in a certain senior or time. She has the right to express themselves in a way that is not necessarily conventional. absolutely. We unconventional creatures. Society and culture pushes us towards conventionality, but we're unconventional. We're unique in our own special way. There's 7 billion of us, and within those societies where we all live, there's this emphasis on conformity and fitting in and being like sheep. But if you look at us as individuals, you come into this world on your own. It's a unique experience. We have similarities and commonalities, but we're so different. Every single person on the planet has a different fingerprint. No two people share that fingerprint. That's how unique we are. So we can, we can certainly assimilate the dominant culture to a certain extent, but you get to a point where you also have to understand our individuality and our uniqueness. So I totally agree with that. That's a wonderful point that you make. So moving on to the next talking point, what makes a person suffering from mental health issues feel excluded? Now, this is something everyone more than likely would have an opinion. My top reasoning and explanation for this is, number one, is a lack of understanding. Our understanding of mental health has evolved so much over time. And I said in one of our Spaces meeting last week, you just need to look at the DSM. Everyone here has got some kind of medical background. So look at the DSM and how that's evolved over time and how it's changed from the days where, for example, homosexuality or learning disabilities were considered, mental illnesses, the term things like imbecility and, obscenity and weird sorts of stuff. And that's evolved over time, and how it's come to the fore and it's become more acceptable in a sense to talk about things differently. So with that evolution of our understanding of mental health, we still have that issue today where understanding is still very much in its infancy, and it still has a long way to go. And the primary reason people feel excluded is a lack of understanding. Obviously, culture, society, where you come from is going to make a big difference. How your health authority approaches it and deals with it, their policies and procedures is different from, what we experience in the UK or what people, experience in the US or other countries and so on and so forth. So that would be my first one. And then another one is also expectation, social expectation. That comes from what I just spoke again, that cultural influence about being a certain way and behaving a certain way and suppressing those emotions and feelings and not fully being yourself, a lack of expression. So what are the other reasons that anyone else can come up with? What would a person suffering from mental health issues, why would a person suffering from mental health issues feel excluded? Because of stigma. Yeah, absolutely. And that comes from, that's born out of what I said, a lack of understanding, So you see this vicious beast, actually. That's the biggest problem that we face as mental health practitioners, is fighting for the eradication of stigma, because stigma is really holding our progress back in how we treat people and allow access to mental health facilities for people who are suffering from mental health. It's worse than the actual problem itself. So, and that comes from a lack of understanding and expectation, because they feel they've been left alone, left behind. Absolutely. And then you also got the logistical issues, people from challenging backgrounds, poverty can lead to exclusion, lack of opportunities, social isolation, physical illness and mobility issues, that can be another one. What else? Difficulty accessing support, which I just spoke about, and a lack of a supportive environment, that's also down to stigma. So, all these things derive from stigma. So that just goes to show the pernicious nature of stigma and how poisonous and toxic it is in our societies, mental health stigma. And that's how it's so important as, people at the forefront, medical students, doctors, psychologists, mental health crisis workers. It needs to be at the forefront of our practices, is that eradication of stigma and educating people. But that's all it is. It's a lack of understanding, pure lack of understanding. So Nihal said, did people, let's say 100, 200 years ago, suffer from such mental health issues in Or is this a vice of the modern era? No, people did. People did. Our understanding has just evolved. It's definitely not a vice of the modern era. It's always been there, just like physics. It's like saying that people 200 years ago suffered from headaches. Yeah, of course they did. They had bodies, didn't they? You know, we've got souls, we've got minds. So just our understanding of it has evolved, and how we view it, how we treat it, our acceptance of it, that's changed. So yeah, of course they did. And then he had a follow-up question. If people did have mental health issues several years ago, how did they deal with it back then when there were no professionals or sensitivity towards issues? That's a good question. I can't tell you. I can make assumptions because I wasn't there 200 years ago. But from the stuff I read, it was very different. You know, especially in spiritual psychology. When I do spiritual retreats, we use a lot of ancestral practices and understandings about mental health and about energies, and you know, there were plant medicines and, you know, different forms of meditation, which we know as meditation now, but wasn't meditation back then. So there were different ways of dealing with it before pharmaceuticals and psychotherapies and the way we deal with it now. But yeah, I couldn't go into detail, but that's an interesting question. And actually, you've given me food for thought. So I'm certainly going to do some research on that, and I'll get back to you, because that's a fantastic question. And then obviously in other societies where, you know, understandings have been so skewed, you know, it was deemed as witchcraft and all sorts of demonic possessions and all of that also, you know, prehistoric religions kind of were proponents of. So yeah, that's evolved and changed. So a lack of moral support and a lack of confidence in raising voices in front of the society. Of course, there is always fear, which affects people mentally. Yeah. And fear comes from the same thing, a lack of understanding. People are always afraid of that which they can't understand. We see that in every aspect of social life. You know, you see it in you know, xenophobia, homophobia, racism. It is actually primarily rooted in fear. You know, you fear something that you don't understand, rather than ignorance. So yeah, that's a valid point. Any other points about why people with mental health issues would feel excluded? Does anyone want to speak? No? That's fine. Okay, now we get to the fun bit. How to approach a person we suspect is struggling with their mental health. How would you approach a person you suspect is struggling with their mental health? Okay, my advice, someone just said show empathy. Absolutely, empathy and compassion. And be very careful. It's empathy, not sympathy. But sympathy can be very patronizing and condescending. So it's empathy over sympathy. So yeah, fantastic points. Be very empathetic about it. Do you want to talk, Neha? Yeah, go for it.
So I think a lot of times, even though, you know, you feel like someone's going through something, if you straight up ask them or like sort of make it obvious that you feel that way, it might cause them to close up more. So I think you sort of just gradually, you know, keep giving them support till you could possibly make them comfortable enough to lean on you or share with you, and you could possibly help them get the help that they really need professionally.
Absolutely. I think that's a valid point. And let's just be clear first, for the purpose of this workshop, I'm referring primarily to, you know, the most common mental health conditions. So we're talking about generalized anxiety disorders, panic attacks disorders, like that, phobias, depression, and, you know, some eating disorders. But if someone is displaying, you know, acute psychotic symptoms, or, you know, symptoms of schizophrenia, it's important to signpost them to specialist help, because then you're dealing with something that's beyond your sort of understanding or your experience. For example, you can, you know, administer CPR to a person who's on the streets, who's collapsed, but you're not going to start performing surgery, heart surgery in the middle of the street. That's not your job. Okay. Our job as friends, brothers, sisters, is to do the easier stuff. Leave the most important and complex stuff to, the professional. That's why it's important to at least know the basics of your health authorities' policy and procedure, so you can signpost someone you suspect that is suffering from something far more serious towards the specialist help that they need. That's where the professionals come in. So yeah, you made a valid point. I think primarily the most important thing is, when responding to someone who's dealing with their mental health, is listen. First and foremost, listen with the purpose of listening rather than the person with the purpose of responding. That there's really power and value in just listening. Let them set the agenda as to how they want things to proceed. On a practical level, I'd say you can ask if they would like support, but respect if they don't want to. Don't push the situation. Obviously, if you're dealing with something you suspect is far more serious, and that person could be a danger to themselves, you're talking about something specialist. So I think in those circumstances, you can go above their consent and impose help on them by getting someone who's more qualified and professional involved. So you're dealing with a serious matter, then by all means do so. But in simple situations, that the situations we can encounter amongst our friends and family, like anxiety and depression, this is the best approach. On a physical level, use open body language. Don't be threatening at all. Watch your tone, quiet yourself. Just be there for the person, and then just sort of assess how you think you could be of any help to them, and ask them what it is. I went to a doctor many years ago when I was in my 20s. I was suffering from anxiety. So I had a history of drug abuse, or drug taking, should I say, and it caused me to have panic attacks. So I went to the doctor to explain all of this about these panic attacks, and it would affect me at such and such a time, and I'd get them before I was going to bed or when I was walking in the supermarket, but I was fine during the day. And I said to him, I'm fine now. And the doctor looked at me and said, so, well, what do you expect me to do about it? Those were his words verbatim. What do you expect me to do about it? So as a result, it made me reluctant to speak about my mental health, especially to professionals, and bottle everything up because of his words. And we're going to talk about that more in the next question, actually, when we talk about the power of words. So the next talking point that I had on the list was how to approach someone we suspect is struggling with their mental health. So if they haven't come to us and we approach them, number one is ask if they'd like support. Let them set the agenda once more. Don't do that pushing. And then signpost them to relevant services, especially if it's beyond your understanding, and it's too much for you. So the next thing is an important bit, actually. And it's about words and the type of words you use. Now, words are powerful, immensely powerful. Words carry energy with them. And if you understand energy and quantum physics, I spoke about this with Spaces a few weeks ago. We are all energy, whether you believe it or not. This is just part of universal laws. You can talk about the law of gravity, which we know if you take something, you drop it, the law of gravity says it drops to the ground. It doesn't drop to the side. It doesn't drop up. It drops down. So when we talk about words, we're referring to the law of vibration, or we say in spiritual circles, we say energy. Everything has a vibratory frequency, and including our thoughts and including our words. So when you use your words, it has the power to affect how someone else feels. It has an emotive quality to it. Okay? So that's why it's so important in these situations where you're dealing with something of such a sensitive nature to be so meticulous about the words that you use. Okay? I will give you an example. I'll do it right now. I'll say, I love you, Sumaiya. Neha, you're amazing. Bhavesh, you're incredible. Pratik, you're going to make an amazing doctor. So forget the words I'm saying, but focus on how it's making you feel. How's that making you feel? Forget how it sounds. Focus on the feeling. It made you smile. It made you smile. It made you feel good. That is what I'm talking about. It's got that emotive effect in someone else. That is vibration. It makes you feel good, as opposed to me turning around and saying, Sumaiya, you're such a disappointment. Naya, I just don't trust you. Bhavesh, I don't know what your future looks like. Now think about how that makes you feel. That brings you down. That's energy, once again, creating that emotive effect. So think carefully about the words you use when it comes to dealing with someone who is suffering from a mental health condition, because it can, words have that power. There's this silly, ridiculous old saying that I grew up with called sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. The biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard, because we know that words hurt the most. Think about all the times as a child where you were beaten by your parents, where I was smacked and slapped. Think about those situations compared to the things that they said. There's this powerful saying from Maya Angelou, says that, people will forget the things you did to them, they'll forget the things you said to them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. It's those words that come out your mouth with the emotive effect that make you feel a certain way, and you remember that for the rest of your life. The words can break people and make people, it brings down governments. Even in terms of war, when countries have been to war and they sign a peace treaty, that's always a result of words that came before. You need to sit down and have talks. So that's the power of words. That's what you're dealing with here, something so powerful. It's powerful as a knife. Okay, so respect that and just remember that. Someone just said in the messages, it all comes down to communication. Absolutely, it is all about communication when it comes to mental health. That's the most important thing, So another thing it's important to remember is that communication is two ways. Words are powerful, but there's power in silence. It is okay to say nothing. Your presence has power. It is okay to just be there and listen, or be close to the person and say nothing. That is just as powerful. Silence is a non-verbal language of its own. It can be used as a powerful tool for people to connect. Think of everything in the universe and our planet, in our existence, that operates in silence, but they're doing something special. Think about the trees creating our oxygen, or the moon that's regulating and stabilizing our seasons and creating our tides, or the sun that comes out. These are powerful things that are there operating in complete silence. They don't make a big hoo-ha about what they're doing, not like human beings, and everything we do has got to be cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha. It's okay to just be present, so and say nothing, especially if you don't know what to say. It's better to say nothing than say the wrong thing. Because like I said, it goes back to what we said about words and how damaging the wrong words can actually be when someone is in need and in crisis. So think about that. Another good example about quiet environments is think about a womb. Think about something that amazing happens in a womb. That's a silent environment, but there's so much going on. It's building life. How incredible that is, how beautiful that is, but it's done in complete and utter silence. So your silence can have power. That's the main thing I wanted to say about that. So on another level, when it comes to responding to someone who needs your help, is have a very non-judgmental approach. If you're there to help, you shouldn't be judgmental. It's as simple as that. And if you're empathetic and compassionate, then you won't have any kind of judgment, because you could be in that situation. This could happen to you at any time, and the likelihood and the possibility is it will. As we all get physically sick, we all will suffer some kind of mental health crisis at some point. Well, 1 in 2 of us anyway. So, it's part of the human experience. Avoid giving advice. I know in psychotherapies in particular, people come and they expect advice, and we say, we're here to listen, and we're here to offer observations on the basis of what you've said. But as far as advice is concerned, that's down to you. Change only comes when, the desire to change becomes greater than the desire to remain the same. Because some people do just want to feed off your energy, especially with things like depression and anxiety and not serious mental health conditions, even though they're all serious, if you know what I mean. Don't allow people to just be a soundbar where they can just feed. If they really want the help, they would get it. So don't offer any advice. You can offer opinions. That's what I say. If you want my opinion, then that's on me. That's my opinion. So you don't have to take it. So you don't have that to throw back at me and say you said that or you said this would work, because that's just my opinion. But the work has to be done from the perspective of the person who's in crisis. Just like I've got to take the pill when I've got a headache. So what else did I have on the notes? And then obviously you've got, the regular stuff that someone just said, let them vent instead of advising. Yeah, absolutely. Allow them to vent. But have a limit as well, don't become a constant soundboard, like I said. But, venting is a release, it's a release of built up stress, tension and anxiety. So it's great. It's also like crying, so allow people to just be, and especially men as well, encourage your male counterparts, friends, family to speak their minds and feel their feelings, embrace whatever emotions they're feeling. There's no shame in that. Absolutely no shame. If men weren't supposed to cry, you wouldn't have tear ducts. You wouldn't be built the same as a woman who does cry and openly express their emotions. Why would you have that same biology if it wasn't meant to happen? So it's as simple as that. Does anyone else have any views on that?
I think a few questions were asked. I think if you scroll up, there's one by Vamika who asked, how do we get to know if our mental health is toxic? Imagine your hands punching you. Is that normal? No. So similarly, if your thoughts hurt you, is our mental health normal?
No. Okay. So that's simple as that. So it's a complex situation because we're dealing with something that's subjective. So what I can cope with may be different from what Neha can cope with. My family, I could have a death and I could lose my job and I could get, diagnosed with a serious illness. And the same things could happen to, say, Neha. But she can still get up and go to work and she can carry on as normal. And I may fall apart and have a nervous breakdown and be hospitalized and be on, drug treatments for depression and suicidal ideation for 6 months. We don't know why some people have greater emotional resilience than others. The bottom line is happiness and well-being is your natural default setting. You will not be happy all the time, just like you will not be physically well all the time. You will get a headache at some point. You will have a fever at some point. The same with mental health. You should have a sense of happiness and well-being most of the time, not all the time. And if it's got to the point where you're experiencing those situations where your thoughts, feelings, as you put it, are hurting you, then you've got a problem which needs addressing. You're not well. As simple as that. How unwell you are, well, that's down to subjectivity as well, but that is a problem that needs addressing. So it's not something that should be ignored. You should not soldier on and carry on as if it's normal, because it's not. Does that answer the question?
I think that was pretty clear. Thank you. There's a couple of more questions.
Please.
Roja asked, so how does someone who's not very good at communicating deal with mental health issues?
Deal with their own mental health issues or deal with helping someone else? From what perspective? Sorry.
I think, there are two questions, I think, by different people, but one is with own mental health and the other is with others' mental health.
I think it's extremely dangerous and a concern, and that's why we need to be sensitive to our friends and family and how they're feeling, because some people struggle, especially men struggle from mental health, and you get to the point where it's too late, where something has been done, and you think, well, you know, I spoke about this weeks ago when we did a Spaces meeting. We all have within us an inkling, you know, an inner voice, a deeper sense of self. You know, that's called the divinity or your soul or whatever that speaks to you through your feelings. Trust it. If something feels wrong about someone you love and someone you care, and you will know, because you'll be very much in tune energetically to this person's feelings, you will know something is not right. So just trust your feelings. It is better to trust your feelings and be wrong than deny your feelings and then have the regrets of something happened or they did something. I'd rather, you know, be approached a loved one who I feel is struggling and have them slap me and say nothing, you insulted me, how dare you say I'm ill, than, you know, they end up hospitalized or something even worse happens. It's serious. And the problem with mental health, especially depression, anxiety, it's so treatable, you know, especially in the early stage. It's something that's so treatable. It's akin to a headache. It can be treated, but you've got to get these things early. You've got to acknowledge what they are, accept them for what they are, and address it. You know, there's no shame. There's absolutely no shame. You know, the only difference between physical health and mental health is that, you know, mental health doesn't enjoy the same level of acceptance and understanding as physical health, you know, so it's shrouded in the stigma and discrimination, and we're trying to change that. That's why we're here talking about that. We're trying to normalize it. You know, this is just part of, you know, the spectrum of human emotions and experience. So let's see it as something that's normal. Does that answer the question?
Yes, that really does. Thank you. Couple more. I think Nihal asked, can you please give some examples which can help us understand the difference between sympathy and empathy?
So sympathy is a tricky one because it's about, it can be deemed as condescending, because sympathy is almost in a sense looking down on a person and not, what's the word? Not fully identifying with the experience. Whereas empathy is putting yourself in a sense in that person's position as a human being from a human perspective, you know, almost like feeling it, you know, from a closeness rather than a distance. You know, I can sympathize that, you know, oh, you lost your grandmother, but it's a distance. But empathize, I can feel, you know, how hard it must be to lose a grandparent. That's the difference. That's the difference in the approach. So you just got to be really careful to get that balance. What's the next question?
There's another by Urvashi. She asks, how do we respectfully set a personal limit so that helping someone else doesn't affect our own mental health or emotional state of mind?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, which is last on the list. So when you're dealing with the problems that we're likely to encounter with regard to mental health, it is important to understand and have a good acceptance of yourself and where you're operating from. If you're operating from a place of well-being and if you're operating from a place of confidence. We use the analogy of the cup in Spaces, that you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got nothing of value to offer someone if you yourself are struggling. You need to put yourself first, and that's where the boundary is. Put yourself first. It is not selfish to put yourself first. It's about, you know, cultivating self-worth. And in order to cultivate that self-worth, you're building up confidence. You know, it's important to recognize that it's not selfish. So yeah, operate from a place of complete well-being and confidence, or else you're useless. You know, you're not helping in any way, shape, or form. You know, we don't put a doctor who's got a terrible cough in to go and work in a respiratory ward. It doesn't make sense, you know. So you wouldn't put people who have COVID themselves nursing in a COVID ward. You know, if that, I'm trying to think of analogies, but that's as nonsensical as it is. So you have to have a solid sense of self, and that takes practice. You know, people, listen, I don't have all the answers. I am a student just like you. You know, and there's no rights or wrongs. I said to you, there's 7 billion of us on the planet, and this experience is an individual experience. You will come into this world alone, and you will go out alone. So we have commonalities and familiarities with each other, but we're so different, we're so unique. And even with treatments, not everything works for everyone. We see that us people in psychiatry or psychology, psychotherapies don't work. Some of them just don't work for some people. Some drug treatments just don't work for other people, and you have to accept that. You can help some people, but you can't help everyone. You can do something, but you can't do everything. That's part of the human experience. I'm a student, we are all students in the most prestigious university in the world, and that's the University of Life. Okay, so we're learning as we go along. It's as simple as that. Any other questions?
No, that's all for now.
So, final thoughts. The final talking points was about popular trends which are mental health insensitive. So the most popular one, come on, we all know what it is, social media. The toxicity, it's a force for so much good, but it's also a building ground for so much toxicity and negativity that impacts on people's mental health in a negative way. So you've got to be really careful about that. Body shaming and imagery in the media, that's another one that's popular at the moment. And that has a detrimental impact on people that don't have the emotional resilience that most of us have, and that can affect people's mental health as well. Toxic masculinity, that's another one, which is quite common. We see that in different countries as well. That same emphasis on, men have to be men. They can't fully express what they're feeling. Like I said, if men weren't supposed to cry, why would they have tear ducts? Why would we even have emotions? If we weren't meant to be emotional. So and that's quite pervasive in lots of cultures, especially here in the West. That hypermasculinity, and so they feel emasculated if they feel that they're struggling. Does anyone want to add to that about popular trends that are mental health insensitive?
The beauty industry in general. And I know it's not directly related to, say, mental illnesses per se, but I feel like it generates a lot of insecurity in general when it comes to, say, the more recent generation.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a very valid point. Yeah, I agree. Someone in the messages said, if you have mental health capacity to listen, but realize it's probably not doing anything for the betterment of the mentally ill we are dealing with, what do you do? It's okay to do nothing. You signpost them to someone else. Simple as that. It's not your job to fix everyone. Your primary responsibility is yourself first and foremost. So that's who you should make sure as well, first and foremost. And if it's too much for you to deal with, move on. Simple as that. Cancel culture. Absolutely. And you see that in the gender imbalance in certain societies as well. Yeah, that's very common. Bullying after sensing vulnerability and weakness. Yeah, that's toxic masculinity as well. That's also with the gender imbalance as well. Bullying is quite popular, prevalent. How do we suggest someone get professional help without offending them, considering the taboo stigma that surrounds their mental health? There's no easy way, you're going to offend them or you're not going to offend them. And like I said, would you rather offend them and they get the help, or would you rather just keep quiet and then something bad happens to them? The choice is yours. I know what I would rather do. How do you deal with and motivate a person who's been suffering with depression for some time and is turning suicidal? So when it gets to the suicidal level, this is when a serious psychological intervention is required. So it's time for specialist intervention in that situation. So that's beyond the area of expertise. So you raise some alarm bells with whatever health provision there is in your community, because suicide's it's serious. Yeah, it's akin to someone having severe cardiac problems. You don't just sit there and do nothing. You call 999 or 911 or whatever it is. So with that, and if that's a major concern, then that's a serious mental health condition, really serious.
I would
Body
also
shaming.
If memes in popular culture, I mean, there was the whole issue that when Will Smith cried on screen talking about the affair, and then that was made into a meme. And I think I felt for that because, he came on screen and he was emotional, and then it became a whole joke. So I think that was something that was negative towards mental health. I think making things into a meme is not a good trend.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Although I will say, in the defense of whoever made the meme, is that when you're a celebrity and you put yourself out there, just like when you're an ordinary person and you put your business out there, what do you expect? I spoke about the law of attraction. What you put out, you've got to be open and willing to accept, as you get back in equal measure. So Will Smith is rich enough and happy enough to be able to stand it. It's when it comes down to an ordinary teenager that's sat behind a computer, that's, trying to find a sense of self and trying to find their way in the world. Those are the people I care about. I could care less about Will Smith and his mental health. He'll be just fine, but he can afford the help as well. What was the other question? How do we suggest someone get professional help without offending them? We answered that question. How do you motivate? Body shaming? Families' duties and responsibility also contribute to mental health in some way. Absolutely, more so than any other experience, because of this conditioning that we receive, not just from our cultures and our societies, but it starts with the family. Behave a certain way. Keep quiet. Big boys don't cry. Shut up and put up. A child should be heard, a child should be seen and not spoken. We've heard all of those words. Think about how lucky you should be, how grateful you should be. You've got food on the table. What more do you want? So we grew up with these words and that conditioning, and it's embedded in our psyches. So it becomes difficult to fully express ourselves and be ourselves because of our conditioning. And it starts with, our family. As much as we love them and respect them, we're all victims of, and it's not their fault. Your parents have done what they know is best. That's how they were raised. That's part of their conditioning, and that's contributed to their development. But it doesn't make it right. So things change and things evolve. We're in a constant state of evolution as a species, anyway. So we go forward doing things differently because we know better than what they did. So that's absolutely. Can you please share your knowledge about the law of manifestation and the law of attraction? Absolutely. That's one of my favorite subjects, but I'm not going to share it yet because that's a topic totally on its own. But yeah, I'd love to do that because I love that type of thing. Making one's self with conventional norms and generation gap due to rapid change in civilization and civilian era. Listen, I go back to the best way to answer that question is what I said earlier about having a sense of self. That's important to operate from a place of confidence, a place of authenticity, a place of being fine with you, most importantly, because the world doesn't owe you anything. I'm sorry, your mother, your father, your culture, your country, they don't owe you anything just because you came into this world. You want success, you want happiness, you want peace, you want love, you want direction, focus, and purpose. That is down to you. The world owes you one thing, and that is the opportunity to be yourself. It's as simple as that. Do you want to be a doctor? Or do you want to be a successful doctor? Do you want to be a visionary? Do you want to be a likable and approachable doctor? Do you want to be groundbreaking? What do you want to be? That's down to you, or you can just be a doctor. So operate from a place of complete and utter confidence in yourself. Have faith and have trust. You believe in God, don't you? Buddha, Allah, Krishna, Mother Earth, whatever, a God of your understanding. You believe so much in that, but we've been conditioned not to believe in ourselves. Believe in yourself. You will not succeed as a medical student. You will not succeed in life if you do not believe in yourself, because no one else is going to. And I promise you, the minute you have that self-belief in yourself, sit back, observe, and watch everything come to fruition with ease. You'll pass your exams, you'll be successful in whatever you do, because you change that mindset first and foremost, and you'll be better able to help others that don't feel that way. Because you'll care less about negativity, you'll care less about what people think about you, because you know deep down you'll value your self-worth. We live in a society and a world which values net worth over self-worth. We need to change that mindset and bring it back to self-worth. That's how we become better people, and that's how we enable ourselves to help others. That's when your cup is flowing. You know, that's when you're operating from a place of, you know, fullness, and then you can really make that impact in other people's lives. Because then there's less of all the negativity that's external from you, and all that negative, you quieten all that negative, harmful thought that's in your mind, because you know that you are fine and you are going to be fine. So that's the best advice I can give you. Any other question? How do we take the pressure of the rat race of high scores and the effect that has on our mental health as students? Belief, I've just told you, believe in yourself. You know, it's only hard because you don't believe that you're worthy of it. Like I said, do you want success? Do you want happiness? Do you want peace? Do you want love? You don't get it unless you believe you are worthy of it. It's as simple as that. No one's going to believe that for you. You need to believe that yourself. Then your exams will become easy. And then the pressure becomes less stressful, because you know you're going to pass. You know you're going to do well. You know you're going to succeed. Why bother even trying if you don't have that self-belief? You know, it's as simple as that, you know, because yes, we're living in this rapidly evolving world where, you know, technology and science and toxic politics and, you know, there's so much going on, and you just don't, it's too much for our simple minds. And yeah, you can, it's overwhelming, and you can get, you know, overwhelmed by it. And that's why we're seeing so many people suffering from stress, tension, and anxiety. But go back to that sense of self, that sense of belief within yourself that you are going to be just fine. You know, and there's simple practices for that. You know, I ultimately don't care what people think about me, because I've worked hard enough on what I think about myself. That's got me to where I am today. So it doesn't affect me, the outside world, and you should feel the same. Or else, you know, why are you even becoming a doctor? You know, you want to make a change? You want to be the doctor that I visited in the room that said, you know, what is it you want me to do? Or do you want to make a difference? You know, don't bother otherwise. Stay at home. Do something else. Do something that's going to be mind-numbingly boring, that doesn't make an impact, that doesn't allow you to grow and evolve as a person. Because a lot of people are in that state anyway, and they don't want to change. I know what I want. So you decide what it is you want. How do you change the inner conversation from not believing to believe in yourself? How do you change the inner conversation? Yeah, there's so many different practical advice steps I could give you, and not everything works for everyone. You know, I focus on positivity most importantly. You know, I watch the amount of negativity I let into my life. You know, watch your friends. You know, your social circle. You know, surround yourself by people that are going to empower you, make you feel good. You know, if people are putting you down all the time and being negative about you all the time, you know, my first friends were my cousins when I was growing up. 3 cousins, and we were like inseparable. But as we grew up and we became teenagers, they did nothing but always pick. Oh, you do this, you do that. You don't dress like this. You don't have the right shoes. You know, you think you're this, you think you're that. And as adults, guess what? We're not really friends now, because they didn't make me feel good. You know, the people in your life that make you feel good, spend more time with them. That's number one. Number two, you can do things like, you know, meditation. That's great for me, but it's not for everyone. Cultivate that good feeling inside of you. Do the things that make you happy, most importantly. Be in the pursuit of that joy. And then you will start believing and understanding your own self-worth and value. You came into this world, you know, as a winner, as it is. Don't forget that. That alone is enough to make you feel special. Remember, you are the sperm that got to the egg, beating millions. So, I mean, if that's not good enough for you to realize, your self-worth, then think about it. But how do we stay positive all the time? How do we get past the burnt out period? You take time out. We can't stay positive all the time. We can stay positive most of the time, but we're human beings and we live in a world. You've got a body, you've got a mind, and yeah, you do get tired. So you're not going to be positive all the time, but you can certainly aim towards it. So, and to take time out to yourself. And if you are feeling burnt out, then you just switch off from everyone, take time to yourself and do whatever, whether it's your spirituality or whether it's sports or what makes you tick. Everyone knows that thing that really makes us feel good. For some people, it's good music. Some people it's, outdoor pursuits. Some people it's the joy of reading a really good book that just makes them tingle all over. It's different things for different people. So I can't give you my tips, because you know the things that make you feel good, and you know very well the things that make you feel bad. In fact, you know the things that make you feel bad better than you know the things that make you feel good. And a lot of people focus. We become obsessed with the negativity. You need to be solution focused rather than problem obsessed. If you obsess over that problem, it festers, it feeds, and it just makes you feel worse. It stunts your growth and your personal development, and you're not moving forward. You're just staying stagnant. But then I say to people, what makes you feel good? And everyone's like, there you go. We don't put enough emphasis on the things that are good for us, that propel us forward. When you've got a mind that's free of stress, tension, and negativity, and it's vibrating on a high frequency, you know what it does? That cultivates, inspirational thoughts and dreams and ingenuity. That's where greatness comes from. So you need to be keeping yourself or working towards that mindset most of the time. Any other questions? Meditation also does a great help in feeling motivated. Absolutely. It makes you feel good. It's grounding. It gives you clarity. It gives you focus. It gives you drive. Meditation is exercise for the mind. Some people say it's for the soul. We go to the gym for the body, and people say, I don't get meditation, I'm not getting anything out of it. But you don't get a six-pack from going to the gym and doing one sit-up and then just not going for another couple of weeks. So the same in meditation, you need to stick to it. You need to do the work. It doesn't just fall on your lap. Like I said, the world doesn't owe you anything. Nothing is just going to fall on your lap. It's down to you to do the work. The onus is on you. So so if you stick to it and you pursue it, you will feel the benefits. Ask people that have been meditating for long periods of time. They feel the benefits and they've stuck with it because it works. They've got their mental six-pack, just like the gym buffs that have been going to the gym, religiously. They've got their six-packs. So that didn't come overnight. Simple as that. I understand your need of the hour, as I am in the same shoes as you. No one can judge your worth better than you. Absolutely. Be confident and give 100 in what you do. Feed yourself with self-love and compassion. I would suggest you be optimistic 24/7. Absolutely, yeah. You're not realistically going to be able to achieve that all the time, but that's certainly what you should be aiming towards, because happiness is a state of mind. It emanates from within. It's not external. It's not there. It's not someone else. It's not money. It's not this and that that's going to make you happy. It starts primarily from within. So if you have that understanding of where it grows from, you then know how to water it and cultivate it, to work towards it emanating from within. And then you'll start seeing the joy and the pleasure in everything that's external. Then you'll start enjoying money more so rather than being focused on the lack of it. Then you'll start enjoying the company of others rather than being irritated and annoying at the things they say and the things they do, because, you're happy. Happiness, it's infectious. It's as simple as that. We know people that bring us down and we know people that make us smile and feel good. So it's infectious. It's back to what I said earlier about the law of attraction, the law of vibration. So what you're putting out is just going to come back to you. That's the beauty of it. You can't go wrong. It's as simple as that. Put yourself first when someone needs you, because you have to be your better self in order to lend a hand to them. Absolutely. Sick doctors don't go to work to go and treat sick patients. You don't go out to help others and open your energy up to try and heal them when you're hurting inside and you're struggling with your own mental health, your own clarity and focus. You have no use whatsoever. No use. It's like writing with the inkless pen. It achieves nothing, and it could be potentially detrimental to both yourself and to the other person. So mental health, put your own mental health first always. It's not selfish, it is self-full. It's about cultivating your own self-worth. And if you yourself want to share your emotional load, should you ask your friend if they themselves are in the right mind to be able to? It depends how close your friend is, What we said earlier, it really does depend on, your nearest and dearest, really well, because, I've got friends where we can be at a dinner table and we just look at each other and burst out laughing because we know what we're laughing at and we haven't even spoken about it. We've got that energy, and you've got that energy with the people that you truly connected with. But if I call, say, Sumaiya and said, "Oh, I need to talk," I know her, but I don't know her well enough, so it's appropriate to ask, in those situations. But those that are close to you, you will certainly have a greater understanding. I'll give you another example about energy. Have you ever known someone who just doesn't like you, but they've never ever said it in words that they don't like you, but they don't like you? Yeah, that's energy. So it speaks for itself, and it doesn't lie. Energy never lies. So trust that it's within you and you feel it from others. So just trust it. Vibes, absolutely. Some people call it vibes, some people feelings, energy. There's so many different terms to it, but it's pretty much the same thing. So just feel it and trust it, because it's not there to lie to you. It really is. It's the real deal. It exists and it's there to propel you forward. Actually, it's part of your growth and your evolution as a person. Remember that there's always someone who is willing to listen to your concerns at any time, no matter whether they can provide you with solutions. They will always listen. I'd like to think that. Sometimes in our societies, we don't always believe that, but surely, there's people like myself and there's people like all of you that are willing to be here to listen to me talking about this, that surely would offer that compassionate ear to anyone, because we're dealing with human beings, the life sciences here, because it can happen to anyone. Like I said, you see an accident on the road, someone collapses and is not breathing. What do? Are you going to walk away? What type of human being does that make you? So the same with mental health, it's offering an ear, a sympathetic ear, just to listen sometimes. You may not have the answers, and it's okay. Like I said, it is okay to not have the answers. Even the experts don't have the answers. So I know plenty of psychiatrists and people don't have the answers for everyone and cannot treat everyone. Talking without actually talking is another level of bond we have with certain people. Absolutely. Energy, that's exactly what it is. It's nonverbal communication. It's creating that bond with another human being, because we have that commonality. We are human beings at the end of the day, as individual as we are and special as we are in our own right. We are human beings. So we can certainly relate to that. Siddharth said, we can learn to treat them. Yeah, and we are learning to treat them. We're learning more and more about mental health as time goes on, and our societies and cultures are changing and being more open to understanding and accepting mental health. So we certainly are learning. Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Strangers or families believe in this. A small belief today can bring a change tomorrow. Yeah, well, it all starts with beliefs, doesn't it? Your beliefs will determine almost every outcome in your life. You know, it's your belief that will propel you forward. It wasn't, I'll give you a prime example. You know, I've got several qualifications now. And then in February, this all happened with Corona, you know, something I've never experienced before in my entire life. I've never lived through a pandemic. None of us have lived through a pandemic. I didn't know what was happening. We were losing funding for my job. I didn't know whether I'll have a future. There was all this weird stuff on the news about all the people that are high risk and who would, you know, how many people are going to be dying, and 900 people were dying. None of my qualifications and my academic background served me during this time when this intense creation of excess fear came into my life. I didn't have the answers. I was as fearful as everyone. And my educational background did nothing to help me navigate my way through it. What kept me steadfast was my beliefs in myself, my belief in that I will get through this, my belief in staying positive, my belief in staying focused, my belief in maintaining my high vibrational frequency in order to get through this difficult time. I didn't crumble. I knew I'm not going to succumb to fear. I didn't know what the virus was going to do. I don't know what it was going to do to me economically. And I was stuck alone at home, locked down, and all these other things that went with it. But I focused on my beliefs, and that was remain positive, because positivity has always got me through everything in the past. Negativity hasn't. It's left me more confused, it's left me fearful, and it's prevented me from growing and moving forward. But I knew staying positive will get me through it. So when the statistics were being announced that 900 people are dying in a day, and this was happening and that was happening, I centered myself and I focused and I went within and I said, remain positive. And you don't have to use my model. You know, some people do it with prayer. If you've got a spirituality or you've got some kind of religion, or if you believe in Mother Earth or Father Sky, whatever your understanding of divinity or concept of the divine is, and that centers you, then use that, you know. But it's all rooted in the same thing. It's about remaining positive and it's about remaining hopeful, because like they say, hope springs. Things come from hope. You know, things don't come from fear and negativity and regression. You know, nothing positive comes from that. You go back. So someone says, go on. Were you going to talk?
Yeah. So I mean, I think you sort of answered the question before, but so when this whole topic of mental health and suicide came up, there was someone older than me, Sierra, my parents, whose view on this was like, if someone commits suicide, that means they weren't strong enough to deal with, you know, life. And obviously that's not in it, that things like this are not that easy. Like, how do you explain to them that mental health is a little more than just that?
It's a tough one to answer, because, you know, especially someone older that's coming from a totally different mindset, and it's very hard to convince people that are coming from an unevolved mindset. I almost feel sorry for them in a sense, because number one, you're lacking in understanding, and that lack of understanding diminishes your compassion for another human being at the end of the day. So I really have very little time for that. I give people facts, you know, and the fact is, we know mental health is not a character flaw. And I always equate it to physical health. I say to someone, if someone was having a heart attack, if someone fell down the stairs and broke their leg, and you could see, you know, the fracture poking, the bone poking out the skin, are you going to say, you know, you were just too weak, you know, do something about it, you're just too weak, get on with it? No, you don't. You know, and that is the seriousness of mental health. It is serious. It is normal as well. It is part of our human experience. And that's why we need to normalize it. And that would be the best example, you know, equate it to physical health and tell them. Thank you. So someone said, at the same time, it is better to win or no win, doesn't matter at the end of the day. It is a path one carves. Listen, there's no not winning. It's as simple. You win in life or you learn in life. There's no failure, you know. So the things that we consider failures, those are learning experiences. Every opportunity is an experience to learn, to live, and to grow. That's just the natural order of things, you know. We learn from the mistakes that we made, but they're not really mistakes, they were lessons, because you don't do that again, do you? So you win in life or you learn in life, and both of them propel you forward, depending on what your beliefs are as well. So if people focus and obsess about the past and their failures, or the things, the areas where they feel they didn't win, then you don't move forward, you don't evolve. You don't grow as a person. You're not open to any newness. So you stagnate. Every experience is a lesson. Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It's a lesson. You know, it's a win and it's a lesson. Simple as that. So, and if you see things like that, you know that you can't lose in life, in every aspect of your life. You're in winning mode all the time. Any other questions? Everyone encounters three types of people. People who support us. This can even be people whom we have never met. People who don't care what we do, and those who are there to spread hate. So that is an interesting one, actually. And this person also went on to say, we're often blinded by those who are spreading hate. And this can just be because they are more vocal about their opinion, and that we don't notice that people who have been supported, and we don't notice that people are. So for me, hate is as simple as this. Hate is rooted in fear, you know, and with all of that comes a lack of understanding, regression or personal growth, stagnancy. It's all rooted in fear. So use your inner voice, use that inner part of you that propels that kind of negativity. And yeah, because like I said, it's all, you need to have a good understanding of your sense of self, because there are people out there that are like that, I'm afraid. It's parts of, I suppose, the richness of life as well, that there are energies out there that are not good for you, that are going to bring you down, you know. So I don't like to say some people spread hate. I think some people spread fear more than anything. And I always say to people, you are what you think I am, not me. You got an issue with me, you don't like me, you don't like what I said, you don't like how I do this and where I went. It's you that has an issue with all of those things, not me. I'm a reflection of the person. I'm triggering something in that person. So it's not about you, it's not personal. Don't ever take to heart the negativity of what people do and what people say. And if you have a good sense of self, it won't bother you as much, because you realize those people are, you at a different level of conscious awareness than they are. So, you know, you are not the person they accuse you of being. That's them. It's something within them that needs addressing. But are there any haters? Isn't it a fact that everyone is a good human being? Absolutely. We come into this world. I mean, look, we came into this world as babies, didn't we? Which baby is evil? Which baby is racist? Which baby is homophobic? Which baby is xenophobic? Which baby is transphobic? Which baby is hateful? That's what we are. That's where we came from. This is conditioning. This is learned behavior over time. Social, cultural, religious conditioning. We've learnt it, so you can unlearn it. And that's the beauty of something like this, a sharing of this. You know, when you engage with people from all over the world and from different backgrounds and different understandings, you learn something. And from learning, you have growth that propels you forward. You have a different understanding and a different concepts of different things. So remember, initially I said to you at the beginning of this, come into this experience as a person, as a friend, you know, a son, a daughter, rather than an academic, rather than a student. View it the learning experience from a different perspective. You'll be surprised when you view things from different perspectives, how you grow as a person. And we can have another, workshop in the future where we get very academic about mental health, and we can talk about the causes and the treatments and get very specific and academic if you want to. But that wasn't what this was about. So if that answers that question. Terrorists are bad for others, but for themselves, they are doing good. Is that the same way? Terrorists are bad for others. People do bad things. People aren't bad. Does that answer your question? People do bad things. People are not bad. I spoke about conditioning. I spoke about our experiences, and that is a fact of life. People do bad things. Nobody is beyond redemption. Anyone can change. If you are physically fit and mentally well, you can change. I was once told by a friend, everyone in this room is bad in someone's dictionary of life. I like that. We need to surround ourselves with those who are less hard for us, or who are less bad for us. Absolutely, because it's about generating that positivity. You want to grow, don't you? Well, you are growing. You're either working towards your growth or you're not. But believe it or not, we are evolving. Everything on this planet, everything organic is evolving. We are all going to die. We are all evolving towards something. Even the planets will die. When the sun burns out its hydrogen in 7 billion or whatever years, it takes out the Earth and the solar system with it. So in a constant state of evolution. So we choose to go along with it, or we can choose to not go along with it. But if you don't go along with it and you don't promote your own growth, your own personal growth, and go with the natural flow of things, life is hard. Life is hard, and that's when negativity creeps in, and stress, tension, anxiety, but you're going against what's natural. So happiness and focus on that positivity is the natural state of things. It's propelling you forward. The universe has got your back. It's as simple as that. You can't go wrong. You go wrong when you digressing, you going back in life, fighting against it. So what can we do that we got to know that we have when we've been backbitten by someone or once who was... so what can we do when we've been backbitten by someone who was once our friend? Like I said before, it's not personal. It is not about you. It was directed towards you, but it's not about you. It is about your friend. Your friend is hurting. Even though their words cut you, their words actually was meant for themselves. It's them that needs addressing. That's why forgiveness is so important, especially if they open the channels of forgiveness. Let them in and just forgive them. Forgiveness doesn't mean you need to be friends. Forgiveness means I'm drawing a line under the situation and I'm moving on. Forgiveness is about the forgiver, not the forgiven. And then you can choose. You get to set the agenda after that, how that friendship goes forward. Do we go back to the way things were, or do I kind of let you in slowly back into my life and allow you to earn my trust again? But you can forgive first. But if you see your friend as a victim rather than a perpetrator, then you realize actually you'll have compassion and empathy for the person that was nasty to you, because they were nasty to themselves. Someone said, yes, don't take it personally. Someone said, less bad. Absolutely. And we're always going to have those issues with friendship, and especially families. Families are the worst, trust me. So, and we can't change them. That's a thing. The family we are with for life. Our friends, we choose. So make it very clear and have those boundaries with your friends and the things. You get to set the tone for how other people treat you. It's as simple as that. You get to set the boundaries. So if your friends, especially when it comes to dating and relationships, if someone's treating you in a certain way, you kind of lay that boundary. You cultivate that path to be treated like that. So the onus is on you to change it, and it can be hard. It's on you to change it. And don't let broken people into your circle if you're not willing to deal with the consequences. We got 2 more minutes. Any final questions about mental health, sensitivity? No more questions? Let's have a look at see if there's any questions I miss. I like what Neha said. Yeah, we all have good and bad, and it's just what we choose to be constantly, every day. It is a conscious choice we make. Till we make it as part of us, absolutely, it is very much a choice. Don't ever minimize or underestimate the power of the choice that you have within you. You know, that's one of the most valuable things you have within you. You know, it is your choice, you know, and it's totally within your power. You know, you are a unique individual. Like I said, you came alone, you will go alone. You go from here to become a doctor. Do you want to be a doctor like your father? You say to people, no, I cannot be a doctor like my mother and my father. Guess what? Because I'm not my mother and my father. There was only one of them, and there will be one of you. So embrace your uniqueness and realize how special you actually are. And don't see it as something negative. Don't conform. You know, conformity and comparison is just, it's a killer of joy. You know, you will never be the same as other people. No matter how hard you try, you will fail time and time and time again. Work on finding your sense of self, your self-worth, and that will give you clarity and vision as to the path that you're taking, the type of doctor you want to be, or the type of a wife or friend you want to be. Don't base it on what your parents were, or your sister, or your friend, or, you know, the person who isn't the black sheep in the family, the star of the family that does so well and everyone looks up to him. So why don't you be like so-and-so? Why can't you be like your brother? You have every right to say, because I am not my brother, because I am not my sister, I'm going to be me, and that's what the world owes me, an opportunity to be myself. They don't owe you anything else. I once was told by a friend, oh no, sorry, I've read that messages. Sorry, the last message was an eye-opener. Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys. I want to take this opportunity, most importantly, to thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you. I know we went slightly off track, and I have a habit of doing this. I did try to stick to the talking points. I have actually got a printout which I will email to Sumaiya, and it's got the talking points more in detail. Some of it we didn't quite cover, but we covered it in a roundabout way, and you can have a look at it later if you want to. I welcome a difference of opinion. You don't have to believe anything I've said here today. You don't have to like it. I'm a student as well. I like to be corrected. So by all means, add me on Instagram or get my email address from Sumaiya and send me an email if you want to, I don't know, challenge me on anything I said, or you want to share your own experience or teach me something. That would be great. You know, we all, like I said, we're in the University of Life. The only difference is I've been here longer because, you know, I'm old and ugly. I'm 40 years old. So I'm at PhD level in the University of Life. But, you know, I'm learning too. So, you know, contact me if you have anything to say, or if you want to expand, or if you have any ideas of what we could talk about in the future as well. And I can also get some other experts in specific areas if you want to cover specific areas of psychology and mental health. I focus mainly on, you know, a philosophical approach today because I feel it's more relatable, and when something's relatable, you can better understand it and absorb the information to be able to deal. But I understand everyone here has got a medical background or heading in that direction, so you want to get to the nitty-gritty of the science behind mental health and treatments and stuff, and we can certainly do something like that in the future. Most importantly, I want to say thank you to the incredible Sumaiya, because this is her brainchild, not mine. I just turned up here to run my big mouth. But, you know, the thought came from her, and I feel honored and blessed to know you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray. Honestly, like I said in the beginning of the session, there was no one who could have conducted this better than you. And I think everyone on call agrees. We've had a constant number of participants throughout, even though we managed to, you know, extend our time limit. And I think after every session that I've attended with you, even as with spaces or now, I come out feeling better always, and, you know, feeling so full of life, and just something about the things you say and put things into perspective, which I think everyone on call is resonating with, because I can see good feedback from all the comments. So,
Oh, Neha mentioned about spaces. I would encourage anyone who isn't an ally to come along, because we really kind of deal with the life sciences there from a totally non-academic point of view, from a person-to-person point of view. We deal with tough subjects from, I don't know, everything, mental health, homosexuality. We're going to be covering all sorts, and there's people from all different backgrounds from all over the world as well. So it's such a rich, diverse environment to be in, to really learn and grow. So yeah, get onto spaces.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback onto you and just thank Ray a lot, because I was just texting Sumaiya and I was like, it's just like listening to Ray, and I mentioned it before, it just gives you this motivation, like, yes, like, I can do this. And even though it's like things we've heard before, it's probably things our own parents have told us. It's not like we haven't heard it before. It's just the way you put it. It connects way better, and I'm really grateful for that. And I'm really grateful that I've met you through spaces. And yes, everybody, please join spaces, because these are the kind of conversations we have. And we're always open to each other. Sumaiya and I became friends not because we were together in buddy groups or anything, and you just find different people you can connect with and have these conversations and being listened to, which was the most important part, one of the most important parts of this conversation. So yeah.
So today's event is actually a collaboration of three great organizations. There's Rotaract Club of Caduceus, there's AMSA India, and there's Spaces. And Neha, Ray, and I, we know each other through Spaces. There are other allies on the call as well. So what we'll do is we will share details of all three organizations on the event group. And, we would like you to become a part. And like we said, we do this on Spaces. We come together and we have good conversations which should be had. So we will share that detail. And lastly, again, thank you, Ray. Thank you to all the audience who took our time. I know everyone's busy. Thank you so much. Can we have everyone switch their video cameras on for like a photograph? So we can just, and then we'll send the post-event form. And also, I would take this moment to thank Anusha from Rotaract Club and Akriti from AMSA India, without which, those people were very integral in making this event possible. We had a lot of last-minute confusion and everything, but thank you for all the support. Any more cameras you want? Group photo. Okay, everyone smile. This is a mental health sensitivity workshop. We should be smiling at the end of it. Right, for that. Did Ray disappear randomly?
I'm still here.
Right, I couldn't see your camera. Okay, I was getting confused. Oh, right, got it. Just one more video. Sorry, one more photo. Last. One, smile. Done. I will share the post-event form on the chat. Please fill it up. That will make you eligible for certification. And that's it. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of today. Right.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jay.
Thank you very much, Sumaiya. I'm going to make a move. I appreciate it. I'll send you the printout that I had written up, even though I didn't follow it. But that seems to be the story of my life recently.
But this is great, regardless.
But yeah, I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you at. I think we've got another Spaces meeting today at some point. I'm not quite sure. Let's check on that.
Yeah, at 6:30.
But I'll see you there. Okay, take care, guys. Take care, Neha. Good to see you. Thanks for coming to support. I appreciate it. One familiar face. But thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye. If there's a problem with the form, guys, just give me a minute. Okay, I've sent another link. Can you just try that out? Yeah, I think this would work. Yeah, can you check if the form is working? I sent the link on the chat.
Yeah, it's working.
Okay, thank you. Guys, please don't forget to fill the form. Like I said, certificates come through that. And again, thank you so much for tuning in.
You need not ask.